Hello, DK. Good morning. I hope we are getting ready.
Hello, Professor Bekwe.
Yes, sir.
How are you, sir?
Very well. I believe we're almost
Good,
set,
thanks.
right? Okay.
Yes, almost set. You know, we
That's
advertised
fantastic.
10, so we just...
Recording in progress.
Yeah. We're starting by 10, right?
are starting by 10, so we're waiting for
Okay.
people to join.
Okay, fine. I'm on standby then.
Yes, thank you very much.
Cheers.
Professor Chinda is on the dean is on call
Okay.
online, sorry.
All right.
No, he has dropped off.
It's all right.
All right.
Recording stopped.
Data, using solar power system and
Now, this is a very beautiful story, and I can tell you, I have read this story severally. I wish this was a Bible study. I would have asked the question. This was a very rich man. In fact, the Bible says he ate like a king. Maybe his table was so full of all kinds of things. And then this was someone like David who was running away from his master, Saul.
It's what I said now.
Mm.
Recording in progress.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning, Sasa Mas. I'm DK Oji. I'm a professor of medicine and preventive cardiology at Department of Internal Medicine of University of Abuja, and also happen to be the director of Institute of Advanced Medical Research and Training. I want to welcome everyone to this workshop, which is jointly being co-hosted with Faculty of Clinical Sciences of University of Abuja and also the Institute of Advanced Medical Research and Training of the same institution. Before I go ahead to talk about the objectives of this workshop and thereafter to introduce our very distinguished speaker, we have the privilege of having the Provost of College of Health Sciences of University of Abuja online. So I want him to make a few remarks, maybe 1 to 2 minutes. Then after that, I will be also calling on the Dean, Faculty of Clinical Sciences of University of Abuja to also make a few remarks. I will be actually moderating this session with the Dean of the Faculty of Clinical Sciences. So the Provost, Professor Titus Ibekwe, you have the floor now to make a few remarks. Then after that, Professor John Chinda, before I talk about the objectives of the meeting, and then introduce our distinguished speaker, and we continue then with the meeting. So Professor Ibekwe, please.
Thank you very much, Professor Dike. We're indeed very grateful to you and your team, and indeed to the Faculty of Clinical Sciences for coming up with this topical topic, if I will put it that way. It's really very topical, and each and every one of us is going to benefit from that. And I'm also glad to say that the resource person you brought in today, the person of Professor Greg Erabo, who incidentally is my very good friend. We have done a lot of work together. Is somebody that you can't get tired of listening to. Very inspirational speaker. And we have it all wrapped into one man today. So we're going to have a delivery that is really very rich in knowledge, and also a very rigorous day.
I'm in the house. I'm on a Zoom meeting.
Sorry, we can't hear you again. You are muted. Can you unmute yourself, please? You incidentally got muted. Sorry.
All right.
Yes. Good.
I think I'm unmuted again. So
yes, you're muted now.
I said that our expectation today is very rich because the presenter in the person of Professor Greg Erabo is somebody who is a man of many parts. So we expect a very rich program in knowledge and also a very gregarious one, so to say, because he's full of humor. He has a way of blending his speech and talk that you can never get tired of listening to him. Without wasting time, it's not a speech-making day. I thank the Institute of Medical Advanced Research and Training. It's called IAMRAT, or one of our renowned professor in Ibadan calls this institute IAMRAT. And if you look at that, it clicks. So whatever thing you call it, the institute is a great one. So once again, Professor Greg, you're cordially welcome to College of Health Sciences, University of Abuja. And to all the listeners, please enjoy your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. Professor Ibekwe, that's the Provost College of Health Sciences of the university. So it's my great pleasure now to call on the Dean, Faculty of Clinical Sciences, whom we are moderating this session with, to make some few remarks. The Dean, sir, Professor Chinda.
All right. Thank you, Professor Oji, for the invite. On behalf of the Faculty of Clinical Sciences Board members, I want to welcome each and every one of us, and especially our resource person, Professor Erabo, I think to this maiden joint workshop, which is titled Practicalities of Mentorship, which I think is largely an interactive program. And there is no better time to encourage ourselves as academicians as this period of dwindling resources. Actually, mentorship is the life wire of an academician. There was a time, I think it was reported in UK, when a vacant position in as the position of the vice chancellor was vacant, and it was advertised. There was none of the professors that applied for the job, simply because that the requirements of that, the demands of that position would take them away from their
Sorry, it's like we lost the dean. Can everyone hear me?
We can hear you, sir.
Okay.
Yes, you're audible.
All right. Okay, good. Did we lose the dean at the point? Yeah. Maybe you can, sir, maybe sir, you can put off your video, sir, so you can maximize your bandwidth. If you put off your video.
Okay. As I was saying, there was a vacant position in one of the universities. That's the position of the vice chancellor. One of the professors applied for that job because that office would take them away from their research works. So, and that is why mentorship is the life wire of an academician, not these political positions. So, and I really want to appreciate Professor Oji to have fished out this golden fish, Professor Irabo, I think to come and encourage us, I think, in this area. And I want to wish all of us a fruitful interaction during this work. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks for all the support and aligning with the Institute of Advanced Medical Research and Training to co-host this meeting. So once again, I want to welcome everyone. And before I introduce the speaker, I want to say a few things about what we are planning to do. Remember that the totality of what we become in life depends very much on the God factor. It also depends on the environment in which we find ourselves and how we navigate through those environments. And also, more importantly, it depends on the guidance we receive from experienced persons who have gone ahead of us, or people we call mentors, and how well we put such into practice. In this or we should always remember that mentorship is all-encompassing and is beyond supervision. There can be supervision without mentorship. Let us bear that in mind as we listen to our distinguished speaker. So in this series of mentorship workshop, which is being co-hosted by Institute of Advanced Medical Research and Training and the Faculty of Clinical Sciences, both at University of Abuja, we'll be looking into such topics like mentoring at all levels. So looking at practicalities of mentorship at all levels. We'll also be looking at things like mentorship and leadership, and also keys to time management. If you talk about mentorship without time management, you have not started, because you have to be able to allot time, appropriately if you are going to mentor people and if you are going to also receive mentorship. Even though this session is online, we want a very interactive session. So some of the things we want is be able to raise up your hand even when the speaker is speaking. If you have some burning questions or issues for him to address, or you can put a chat, a question, a comment in the chat box, and then we take it off from there. We want it to really, really be interactive. So at the end of the 2 hours or thereabout we are going to be spending, please let us maximize it. And this is one in a series. We're believing that one of these sessions will be purely, at least physical, as much as possible, or hybrid for some people to join physically, and also to some also to join online. So with Professor Rabo coming all the way from Ife to Abuja. So having said this, before I introduce our distinguished lecturer, it will be nice to remind ourselves of some rules, around online meetings. It's always good to keep your microphones muted when you are not speaking. Please don't forget. So from time to time, check your microphone. If it's muted, that's when you are not speaking. If you are going to speak, unmute your microphone. It might be better to videos to maximize bandwidth, except when you are speaking. You want us to see your face. Then, but the third thing is that please, you raise your hand electronically. You can use the React icon there, and then you can click on it, and you can see the raise your hand button there. So please use it. And after speaking, you can lower your hand. And like I said earlier, you can also use the chat box to ask questions or to make comments. So at this time, I want to introduce Professor Rabo. Professor Rabo, are you ready, sir? Someone is here. Is someone raising the hands? Yeah. Dr. Sani, sir.
Everybody will sit down. Everybody sit down. Everybody sit down.
Dr. Sani, it's like you are raising your hand.
Sorry, sir. I was just testing your instructions.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so sorry.
All right. No. You don't have to be sorry. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, Professor Rabo, are you ready for us?
Yes, sir.
Face
Ready.
has been introduced.
On mute now. I'm ready.
I'm not seeing your face. Or we're not
Show
seeing
the
your
face. Show the
face.
face.
We're seeing you before. Good. Now we're seeing you. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
So when I asked Professor Rabo for his brief biography, I got like 3 pages. So I don't know how that is brief, but that's actually the biography of some people. So what I've decided, because of time and because we are here for business, you can't catch him easily. So I've decided to summarize it as much as possible into about 1.5 pages, which is still high actually, because I wanted it to be half a page, but I struggled to do that. It was just impossible. Others are going to leave us some very important things. So Professor Gregory F. Pusa Rabo is a professor of medicine at the Obafemi Awolowo University and is consultant physician and head of the chest unit at the Obafemi Awolowo University Hospital Complex in Ife. He's a fellow of the West African College of Physicians, American College of Chest Physicians, and the Royal College of Physicians in Edinburgh and also in London. He's an executive committee member of the Council of Global Governors of the American College of Chest Physicians, having served as an international regent of the college for 6 good years. Professor Rabo is one of the pioneering founders of the Pan-African Thoracic Society. He's a former national of the European Respiratory Society, a former president of the Nigerian Thoracic Society, and a former chairman of the Stop TB Nigeria. He served as the vice chair of the Chronic Lung Disease Division of the International Union Against Tuberculosis and Lung Disease based in Paris for 3 years, having been the secretary and program secretary for many years. He's a member of the British Thoracic Society and American Thoracic Society till date. Professor Rabo was a former chief examiner and internal assessor of the Faculty of Internal Medicine, West African College of Physicians, and is the editor-in-chief of the West African Journal of Medicine and co-editor-in-chief of the African Journal of Respiratory Medicine. So if you want to publish, get in touch with Professor Rabo for your manuscript to be published easy and very fast. He has received national and international awards, including the British Thoracic Society Award in 1993, called Making a Difference Award by the American College of Chest Physicians in Philadelphia in 2008, and the Humanitarian Award in Asthma by the American College of Chest Physicians in Atlanta, Georgia, USA in 2012, amongst many others. Professor Arabo has supervised over 34 respiratory residents across the country. So if you talk about number one respiratory physician in the country, then you have the man seated before you here, who has successfully defended their Part 2 dissertation and numerous postgraduate students for master's degree. He's a well-published author who has written over 200 articles in peer-reviewed national and international journals, including numerous conference proceedings, editorials, and abstracts. Beyond medicine, he is a prolific writer and thought leader in leadership and personal development. His best-selling books, including Your Time in Your Hands, The Making of a Great Pastor, Balancing Life and Work in the 21st Century, and 1001 Timeless Inspirational Quotes, have impacted leaders and professionals globally. Through his lectures, mentorship, and writings, he continues to shape conversation on ethics, organizational leadership, professional leadership, spiritual growth, and continue to inspire individuals to excel both in their personal and professional lives. He's married to Reverend Mrs. Ayodele Orabo and are blessed with 3 children. So we have the great privilege of having a great man before us. I mean, a leader by excellence. So, Professor Arabo, we are handing over the podium to you at this moment.
I thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I want to thank Professor Oji for inviting me and really for inspiring me to get involved in a thing like this, because I was actually really inspired by the fact that he could try to bridge the gap between academia and also mentoring and the overall lifestyle of people. So I want to thank him so much for this meeting. He's a very versatile, proactive man. I also want to thank the Faculty of Clinical Sciences and the Dean, Professor Chida, for allowing this program to take place within the forum of the university, and my dear very friend, Professor Ibekwe, who co-authored things together and worked together, the provost, for being there. We also want to thank the Vice Chancellor, Professor Patricia La, for all she has done to make the atmosphere conducive. I also want to thank the team in Abuja who are there centrally working on this, and my team here in Ife, which consists of nothing less than 30 people working on various aspects of this, IT business. I want to thank them for their support. Can we now go on to the slides, please? Can you remove that? Yes. Now, we're going to be looking at, I want to thank Professor Oji for making this topic, let's go for the beginning. Mentorship, Now, what I'm going to do in this first batch, is to look at the missing gap in mentorship. So I will start by introducing an overview of mentorship. Then I will now go into looking at the missing gap. And as I said, this is a continuous series. I'll be looking at the various other things that are missing in our current understanding of mentorship. Now, Conrado says something. No man is capable of self-improvement if he see no other model but himself. We're all created to model things. We're all created to model other people. Our brains actually mirror other people. We are a mirror image of what we take. And so mentorship is a form of trying to model someone. Now, the word mentor is...
I noticed that without my Airtel, it doesn't even reach 1 month. It's like...
Please, can we...
Hello, Abbas.
Please, can we meet everybody? Professor Oji, please mute everybody. Yeah, okay. Mentor is a person's name. It originated in the word in the Odyssey. It's an epic poem written by a Greek poet, Homer. When the Greek warrior Odyssey went off to fight in the Trojan War, he left his son Telemachus in the care of a trusted guardian called Mentor. So Mentor was a father figure, a trainer, a coach, an equiper, and a motivator to Telemachus until his father returns. Pointer is not working now. Oh, sorry. All right. Okay, all right, okay. All right. All right. Okay, that's okay, all right. Sorry, all right. Now, what is mentorship? It's an all-inclusive personal, mental, and professional development connection in which an expert or better skilled person in a field help a less knowledgeable person to attain growth and expertise in that area of interest. So please, can we move a bit more? Yeah. No, can you join the... This thing is too... The second one is being buried. It's supposed to come up. All right, the exchange occurs at specific times and in a suitable manner. Ultimately, sorry, I have to use my script here now. All right, thank you very much. Okay. Now, ultimately fostering the mentee's development and empowerment. Oh God, just let me be changed. Can I change it from here? Just let me be changing it so that. Okay, now mentorship is not coaching, and I'm going to explain later. It is not parasitism. Sometimes some people want to look for a coach or a mentor just for themselves. It is bi-directional. It is not just seeking honor that I've mentored several people. It's not just about getting results. It's about building the man. And so, I think I have to take this thing is burying most of my slides. All right. Mentoring is a process for the informal transmission of knowledge, social capital, and the psychosocial support perceived by the recipient as relevant to work, career, and professional development. Mentoring entails informal communication, usually face-to-face, during a sustained period of time between a person who is perceived to have a greater relevant knowledge, wisdom, experience, and a person is perceived to have a lesser one. Well, that is an old thinking. But mentorship is not just it's not just a vertical downwards. It can also be a bi-directional thing. Now, Chip wrote something about mentorship, and he said that mentorship or mentoring is a process in which someone helps a prodigy learn something that he or she would have learned less, which have learned less well, more slowly, or not at all, if left alone. So mentorship helps to accelerate your learning and to widen your capacity generally. Now, there are Roger Ascom, an English scholar and writer, says something about mentorship. He said it is courtly wisdom that is brought by experience. So mentoring offers a less expensive means of acquiring wisdom, that of learning from those who have gone through the process. Now, let me say something about the difference between mentorship and coaching. Now, coaching is primarily about skill building. It promotes capacity building and the development of specific skill set. Instruction is largely dissemination of knowledge without necessarily getting involved in the recipient's life. Influencing coming is in a person just to make is a brief, piece of advice where you share an opinion or give a direction that obviously impacts decision of that person at that time. So coaching, instruction, and influencing. Coaching is on skill, instruction and dissemination of knowledge, and influencing may just be a brief, but there's no interconnection with the person's life. Now, there are two people involved in mentorship, the mentor and the mentee. The mentor is the one that is experienced, knowledgeable, that gives personal guidance and support. The mentee is someone who seeks guidance and support from a more experienced individual known as the mentor. Now, both of these things are bidirectional. The mentor starts by mentoring the mentee. And as time goes on, the mentee can do a reverse mentoring to mentor the mentor. So knowledge is bidirectional. So it is not just a paternalistic kind of thing in which the man on top brings it down at the lower, but the man down also comes up and there is a bidirectional approach to mentorship. Now, it was Washington Irving that said, great men have purpose, others have wishes. So mentorship is not just about wishes, it's about establishing purpose. Albert Einstein, Isaac Newton, the great physicist, I have seen further than others, it is by standing upon the shoulders of giants. And I hope these slides were not, because in the newest slide we have physicists there. I hope we're using the most current slide here. Now, what are the benefits of mentorship? Now, mentorship is involved in character development. Mentors teach you to develop good character and sustain greatness. So mentorship is not just about the core competence, but also about character development. Mentorship helps to connect networking. So it creates a lot of networking for you. So a good mentor opens you to various kinds of experience. Mentorship also calibrates your career. A mentor ought to read your growth, ought to read your talents, and tell you how you can actually play in a larger field. Mentors also act as checks and balances without necessarily compromising. So they know your strength, they know your weaknesses, and also try to take you along so that you can be a holistic person. Great mentors chart a course for you. They want to tell, look, in this particular field, this way you can do best. In that particular field, this way you can do best. Then mentorship is about multiplying values. So a mentor multiplies himself in his mentee. And so it's like a lifetime work. Why do we need to have a mentor? Now, when you look at the secret of Fortune 500 companies, 71% of Fortune 500 companies have mentoring programs. 91% of workers who have mentors enjoy greater job satisfaction. 87% of mentors and mentees feel empowered and develop greater competence. When it comes to higher pay, 25% of mentees have increased salary grade change compared to only 5% who have no mentors. Now, increased productivity. 67% of business reported increase in productivity as a result of mentoring. 55% of businesses experience higher profit as a result of mentoring. Mentees are promoted 5 times more than those who have no mentors. 89% of those who have been mentored will go on to mentor others. So mentorship has a cascading effect. Now, mentoring undergraduates entering the workforce save a lot of employers significant resources. It reduces induction time, it increases innovative outputs, it increases productivity, it leads to higher retention rates, it leads to lower resource burden, and a higher adaptability quotient. Now, it's one thing I found that across board, people take positions. Even in the university, somebody becomes head of department, provost, vice chancellor. Even in academia, people become professors and take various positions. But actually, they are not mentored in the processes and the training to do the job well. Suddenly, what we find out is either a caterpillar approach to things. Somebody just issues a big degree or says a big important statement without trying to go through the nuances of development. And so it is actually suicidal and destructive to an organization to put a person who has not been mentored in the position that is going to take. Is actually going to destroy morale and actually destroy the organization. Now, there was this research that looked at the surveys of people. They found out that over 1,000 executives established that they had enabled that mentorship has helped them their success. Nearly 2/3 of them say they had a mentor. So executives who have a mentor, they earn more money at a younger age, they are happier, and they progressed. Then there is this chart which shows that when you ask successful people, 27% of them say that mentorship was extremely important. 50% of them say very important. And then somewhat important was 21%. It's only less than 1 to 2% that say that mentorship is not important. And this goes across male and female. Now, Allen et al. Found improved career development that those who are mentored, they receive higher compensation, receive greater number of promotions, feel more satisfied and committed to their career, believe more that they will advance in their career. Going by my training for over 30 years of being a teacher, I know that if you have a good mentor leading a student, you can actually increase its value. When he encourages you, you can actually do better. But when you have people who start from day one to point at your faults, to start building you up, then there's a problem. Teaching is formative, not just summative. So you train people so that they can rise up to the highest level of their calling. Now, all of us know about Denzel Washington, the great actor. He says, show me a successful individual, and I will show you someone who have really positive influences in his or her life. I don't care what you do for a living. If you do it well, I am sure there was someone cheering you on or showing the way, a mentor. Now, there are various mentoring models and framework, and I'm just going to mention them because I'm looking at the missing gap in mentorship. Now, when it comes to mentorship, there are different kinds of mentorship model. It could be a bridge mentoring, it could be a speed mentoring, it could be reverse mentoring, which I talked about. It could be group mentoring, it could be a distant e-mentoring, and it could also be peer mentoring.
Network is not allowing us.
And it can be one-to-one mentoring, which could be formal, active, informal, or passive. Some other time we can look at all those specific areas of mentoring, and some of them are well documented in my book on mentorship. Now, the group mentoring we know about are the peer mentoring is within peer, distant mentoring can be tele-mentoring and so on, one-to-one mentoring, speed mentoring, bridge mentoring, and then reverse mentoring. Now, what are the missing gaps in mentoring? Now, one of the big things that I found out is the missing gap in mentoring is that apart from the fact that many medical schools, many institutions of higher learning, many faculties, many departments across board, whether in arts, social sciences, science, humanities, whatsoever, they do not have a program for mentoring. You see somebody say you have a mentor, but what they are looking at is just training people on how to pass exams or how to get a good grade. But mentoring is holistic. It is not training you only in competence, it's training you in character and also training in such a way that you can compete in the larger world. Now, one of the great competences that we have missed in mentorship is that we do not find out what people can do best. Now, the fact that you graduated as a doctor doesn't mean you're going to be a great doctor. I can tell you, Chief Obafemi Awolowo said that by profession, I am a lawyer, but by calling, I'm a politician. Some of the great men we know of did not use their academic degree to strive in life. So going to the university is a way of recognizing your core competence so that you can fit into the larger world. Now, what is the core competence of someone? How can a mentor recognize it? In finding out what you can be best at, the first thing you ask yourself is, what am I passionate about? Passion is the driving force of purpose, and purpose is the driving force of productivity. So you must find out what one thing that you are most passionate about, not the many things in which you'll be just average. Then this was a research that was done by Jim Collins. Jim Collins wrote this great book, From Good to Great, and it's also featured in my book, The 10 Principles of Disciplined People. He was saying that if you are going to have a beehive, that's a big, hairy, audacious goal for success, there are 3 questions you must ask yourself. 1, what are you deeply passionate about? What are you deeply passionate about? Then the second question, what you can be the best in the world. When I graduated from medical school, my thinking was, what can I do that can actually single me out? It may not just be your profession. So what can you be the best in the world? Which includes your values and purpose. Then Jim Collins also say, what drives your economic engine? Now, what do we find out in the world? So people are looking at what drives the economic engine. I want to be in the profession that will give me the big money. But if you want to be in a profession that will give you the big money and you are not passionate, you may not belong. If you are passionate and you are going to get a place you can get the big money and you have not created the rated skill to be number 1 or near number 1 in your field, you can succeed. So a mentor helps you to discover yourself. And personal discovery is so absolutely crucial if you can be great and determine your ability to impact the world. Now, there's this hedgehog concept. Now before we come to hedgehog concept, you are going to be looking at 4 major things. You love it, so you have passion and mission. Then number 2, you are great at it, so you have passion and proficiency. Then the world needs it. So you are going to look at your mission and your vocation. And let me just dive a little bit into religion. There were sometimes people went to the Eskimos and were preaching to the Eskimos that if they don't give their life to God, they will go to hell, a place burning with coal and fire. So the Eskimos say, no, they don't even want to go to heaven, that they are suffering a lot of cold there. They want to go to hell when they will meet things to warm them. For over there are times on earth here, they've always been staying in cold weather. So what I'm saying, what the world needs is important. Then they now said, what you are paid for, profession and vocation. Now, I speak for my own profession. I want to say that in medicine, it's one of the least paid when it comes to professionalism. I mean, if I give a lecture as I do around the world, for one lecture I give outside the world, at least within an hour, you're giving $1,000. If I put in secular place, but in medicine, you can spend the whole night giving a talk to people and they will give you 30,000 naira. And they say, please, before you finish, they will ask you for the slides. Now, in Jim Collins' book, he talked about good to great. And he argued what he called the hedgehog effect concept. There he argued that organizations and individuals will more likely succeed if they can identify one thing that they can do best. One thing that they can do best. That's hedgehog effect. Now we know the great ancient Greek parable. He said the fox knows many things, but the hedgehog knows only one big thing. And so because the fox pursues many ends and sees the world in all its complexities, it never achieves greatness. But the hedgehog simply knows one thing. And because of that, he becomes great. Multitasking may be very good for some people, but usually it is not the best. So as you narrow in your profession, you keep on narrowing and narrowing and narrowing until you find your niche in one thing that you can be the best in the world. Now, in the Good to Great book, he also found out that we must come to a position where we understand what we are truly passionate about, when we identify what we can do better than anything else. Now, there was this great man, and that was Waldo Emerson. He said, if you can make a mouse trap more than your neighbor, then everybody will come to you. And I always tell this ever, if you can sew a dress, or if you can cook a meal better than anybody, then go and live anywhere in the world. The world will carve a route to reach out to you. Then you must understand your economic engine also. Now, Stephen Covey in his book, 7 Habits of the Highly Effective People, talked about the PCP balance. Now, the PCP balance talks about productive capability and production, also called the egg and chicken balance. That greatness is a balance between your productive capability and your production. Production is the things that come out of you, your activities, the work you do. But your productive capability is the potential that you have built up over time so that you can actually produce. Now, mediocre people spend more time on their production without building up their productive capability. And so if you are going to actually know the missing gap, you must build up your productive capability, train and retrain, go to conferences, go to meetings, improve your skills, and at the same time, do something that is outside. And I just like what we call the chicken and egg thing. Now, because you want to eat the chicken, you not kill the chicken, you want to get the egg, you kill the chicken to carry all the egg, then you destroy yourself. You know, somebody said that God gave him a message, but God gave a man a message with a horse. He killed the horse before he delivered the message. He burnt his life on 2 ends. So there was no time to build up a productive capacity so that you can produce more eggs. Then the second missing gap is the growth mentality. Life is a continuous bargain of growth. Many people stop learning. And in life, we have what we call the fixed mindset or the growth mindset. Now, a man with a fixed mindset doesn't grow. And even if he grows in a narrow way, but not in the total expansion of life. And so if you are going to be successful, mentorship will teach you to have an always improving mentality. Something you can be the best in and continue to improve, continue to improve, continue to improve, continue to improve. When I was in the medical school, I had over 1,000 books, not in medicine, but now I cannot count how many libraries I have because I keep myself abreast with knowledge every time. I keep growing, not only in my field, but in my personal development. And so a great mentor should teach people this growth mentality. Now, what does this growth mentality actually mean? It means that you believe efforts leads to mastery. You believe failures are temporal. You receive feedback as a source of information. You embrace challenges and change. You see criticism as an opportunity to learn. And so you have this growth mentality. Everything that happens to you, you want to grow more. You don't fight your critic. You don't deal with the messenger and kill the messenger who is giving you a message. You ask for feedback. In certain universities, whenever you tell the faculty, let us fill a questionnaire and ask the students how you are teaching. Everybody begins to fight. How can the students be assessing me? How can the students be assessing me? No. How can you be teaching without being assessed? So the students need to assess and ask whether you are a good teacher. And then you must, in humility, take the lesson from that student and see how you can improve. I'm sure Dr. Oji, with time, or Professor Oji, will bring out the questionnaire to allow people to ask, how does this course benefit them? And the last one we did in Ibadan, in Abuja, there was this feedback mechanism. And so that's what growth mentality is. How am I doing? Shakespeare said, the eye cannot see itself, but through a mirror. And the mirror are those whom you are impacting. Then, in order to have a growth mentality, you know how to debrief. What did we do well? What did we do poorly? What can we learn from this? How do we do better next time? Now, there's this great woman who spent all her life, this psychologist, Carol Dweck, to make a lot of research on growth mentality. She found out that a fixed mindset believes intelligence and talent are fantastic, avoids challenge to avoid failure, ignores feedback from others, and hides flaws so as not to be judged by others. But a growth mindset simply means that people believe their intelligence and talents can be improved through effort and actions. Now, there was an article in Nature which seems to contradict the fixed held belief, and I'll talk about that later, that IQ cannot be increased. Sometimes it can be increased. People's intelligence can increase over time in a multifaceted manner. So a growth mentality must be a lifestyle. Then there was this quotation by Alfred Bennett. Alfred Bennett was the inventor and the founder of IQ test. He said, it is not always the people who start out the smartest that end up the smartest. Some people leave school very smart, and then right from the time they left school, they begin to go down. It is not always the people who start out the fastest that end up the smartest. Now, Arthur C. Clarke, which is now called the Clarke First Law, he says, when a distinguished but elderly scientist says that something is possible, it is almost certainly correct. When he states that something is impossible, he is very probably wrong. In fact, I can only say that he's wrong. So growth mentality is important. Then the second thing, a third thing, what I believe is a missing gap in our mentorship is teaching people the power of grit. Now, grit simply means firmness of character, indomitable spirit. It is defined as perseverance and passion for long-term goals. You see, somebody once said that greatness is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. Now, I want to say this. One of the most important things for greatness is passion, but backed up with perseverance. Life comes with up and down. Life comes with challenges. The ability to develop your grit and carry on in your course, no matter how many times you fall. I think it was a great boxer that says this. I don't care how many times you hit me. I don't care how many times I fall, but I must make sure I'm not knocked out. And even if I'm knocked out, I must build myself and come back to fight back. So are you have a fight back mentality or a knockout mentality? And that's very important. Now, Angela Duckworth even actually brought a grit scale from her research among cadets for Chicago Bulls and also from her research across all educational board. She found that challenges the conventional wisdom that innate talent is the sole determinant of success. Innate talent is not the sole determinant. Can we get here? Innate talent is not the sole determinant of success. The word grit encompasses two key components, passion and perseverance. Some people persevere, but they are not passionate. Some people are passionate, but they are not persevering. And so someone with grit combines passion with perseverance. It was the great Winston Churchill that said this. He said greatness is moving from one failure to failure without losing your enthusiasm. Moving from failure to failure without losing your enthusiasm. And the word enthusiasm is enthros, the dynamic force of God that helps us to push on. Now, Angela Duckworth, in her research on grit, and in her book, The Power and Passion of Perseverance, I think if you can get the book to read, it's very good. You see, it represents a transformational understanding of success. Her work fundamentally shifts the focus from innate talent to the role of sustained effort, passion, and resilience in achieving long-term goals. This paradigm shift has profound implications across various domains, including education, psychology, organizational development, and personal growth. I can give you my own personal experience in being the editor of our journal, West African Journal of Medicine, which covers both the surgeons and the physicians. Now, for over 2.5 years, we have not published any article in that journal. I mean, the journals have never come up. And when we started, there were a lot of pressures. There was no money, there was no fund, and it was almost impossible. People were not submitting articles. Cost was very high. But backed up by certain proactive leaders in the, in the West African College of Physicians and Surgeons, we began to work hard to making this journal now a very formidable journal. And it's now publishing every month. And I can tell you for a scientific journal, that is a great thing. It is passion and perseverance on a long journey. Then, one thing that somebody that demonstrated the grit is a man called Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln, to me, is one of the greatest American presidents. When I graduated from the medical school, my first assignment was to read the biggest volume of Abraham Lincoln. Because this was a man who failed in business in 1931 and again in 1833. He was defeated for an Illinois state legislator in 1932. His fiancée died in 1935, and he had a nervous breakdown in 1936. In 1848 and 43 and 48, he ran for Congress, and he lost both times. his US Senate aspiration was no better. You know, I hope, let's go. Are we okay? Yeah, he was no better. Then his wife, Mary Todd, had a lot of mental and emotional instability. He buried 2 of his 4 beloved sons. But finally, in 1860, Abraham Lincoln became American president. And historians tell us he's the greatest, if not one of the greatest. That is grit in action. Now, another demonstration of grit in action is shown by a person called Thomas Edison. You know about Thomas Edison with over 1,000 inventions. When he was in school, the teacher told the mother, "Your Tommy is too stupid to learn. We cannot have him at our school." But the mother never gave up. I can tell you, behind every great person is a very persistent mother. He taught his son arithmetic, writing, and reading. At the age of 12, the man developed a hearing problem. I want to encourage young people here, married people here, if your children have problems, never give up on them. The child has a bout of scarlet fever, recurrent otitis media. He became completely deaf in one ear and could barely hear with the other. He later famously failed 1,000 times in the experiment to produce the electron bulb. Failure is not final, neither is it fatal. It is only a call to recalibrate and persevere passionately. Now, Thomas Edison again invented the multiplex telegraph system, the monograph. He was such a great man that he said, I have not, when he made 1,000 experiments and failed, he said, I have not failed. I've only found 1,000 ways that won't work. How do you represent your failure? What do you say when you fail? So mentors train mentees to keep on persevering. I remember when one of my institutions, when we were building one of the big building around where we are, and after we have finished building the building, architects came, engineers came and said this building has to be pulled down. And I have been a pioneer, a driving force to this building, coupled with those who assisted me. I felt so bad. How can we pull down this building? And I said, look, we have wasted such money on this building. But somebody told me, pull it down. I received some touch in my spirit. Pull it down. Because you have now learned a lesson of a lifetime. And then I can tell you, we pulled it down. And so out of our broken past, we now have a great edifice. Now, this was one of the American generals. He said, everyone has a superstition. One of mine has always been, when I started to go anywhere, or do anything, never to turn back or to stop until the thing intended is accomplished. What we call stick-to-itiveness, the bulldog mentality. And what in my faith says, when you put your hand on the plow, don't look back. And what somebody like Winston Churchill said, never, never, never give in. Now, this bulldog mentality is derived from a phrase for sports in which an athletic competition master relentlessly determined to succeed. So mentors tell their mentee, you can succeed. You can make it happen. And so we tell him, acquire toughness, tenacity, and perseverance. You can succeed. I wish you can tell it to your children. I wish you can tell it to your friends. I wish you can tell it to yourself. You can succeed. Never say never. Have the I can mentality. Somebody said greatness comes in cans, and that is the I can mentality. Then the last aspect that is very important, and that's where we'll conclude this mentorship thing, is the emotional quotient and intellectual quotient, or what we call emotional intelligence, and intelligent quotient. Now, I want to take time to explain this. Now, there are diversities of intelligence. You see, when you say somebody has IQ, people always think about his ability to solve maths, his ability to solve problems, but there are intelligent quotient, there are, what do you call it, emotional quotient, there are adversity quotient, your ability to face and overcome adverse conditions. There are relational quotient, your ability to relate with people. And then what I call the risk quotient, which is the measure of a person's natural level to get over a risk situation. And I can tell you, I know there's something I call a spiritual quotient, only that's not easily measurable. The capacity for you to extract power for something beyond you to make you succeed in life. Now, current mentorship program focuses on IQ. But IQ is limited in determining professional potential and business success. So, as good as IQ is, it is not actually the best way to rate people's life. And I'll explain to you. It is said that IQ is a total score derived from a set of standardized tests or subset designed to assess human intelligence. An average score is between 85 and 115. 68% of IQ scores fall within one standard deviation of the mean. So almost everyone is within the average. That means that the majority of people have IQ of between 85 and 115. Now, usually women are said to have a higher IQ than males. Now, IQ is important in education placement. They say, show me your CV. If you have a first class, if what is this? It's also important in intellectual ability when you are looking at cognitive things. It is sometimes important in evaluating job applications. It is a predictor to some extent, not totally, of job performance. And it could also help in predicting income. But emotional intelligence is increasingly becoming aware that it's more important in determining success than IQ. Now, you see, most mentorship program talks about your IQ, but now people are not thinking of developing emotional intelligence even in children when they are growing. Now, sorry. Okay. Now, emotional intelligence was defined by Daniel Goleman, who wrote one of the big books on emotional intelligence. He says, understanding and managing your own emotion and influencing the emotion of others. So EQ is also known as EI, which is emotional intelligence. Now let us look at EQ and IQ. Now, as someone once said, EQ gets you through life. IQ gets you through school. I always say to my medical school class, I said your MBBS is the starting point. And I tell those in other professions, I say, when you have a BA or BSc, just to begin again. You see, the fact that you are good at school does not mean you'll be good at life. The fact that you came out first class in class doesn't mean you become first class in life. The fact that you are successful in being the best in your class does not necessarily mean you'll be successful in life adventure. So EQ is that missing gap that tries to balance your IQ with your EQ. Now, there are several comparisons of IQ and EQ. IQ gets you through school. It measures your ability to learn and understand and has difficulty understanding emotion. But EQ helps you achieve goals in all environments. It measures your ability to use emotion and logical skills. It possesses the power to understand and manage your emotion. Every individual sometimes goes through over 400 emotions at a time. And emotion are the driving force of existence. And I will explain that to you more. Now, when it comes to EQ, IQ, problem solving, IQ is very analytic, logical, and reasoning. But EQ uses emotional insight for interpersonal challenges. In leadership, IQ will give you technical expertise to make decisions, but EQ will give you empathy, team motivation, and conflict management. Teamwork. IQ focuses on task and outcome, but EQ focuses on relationship, collaboration, and support. I know Professor Oji will say now, yeah, many of his people are doing research have good IQ. But for him to get a good research team, they will need collaboration, they will need support, they will need relationship. And that is what drives research on a bigger and a global scale. Stress management. IQ will give you a logical approach to problem solution, but it's only EQ that will help you regulate your emotions in stressful conditions. IQ in communication will give you clear, fast facts, things about communication. But it's only EQ that will train you to understand emotion and train you in active listening. Now, other things in decision making. When it comes to decision making, IQ will tell you logical thinking. But EQ will tell you use emotional impact in your relationship. When it comes to relationship, IQ will just deal with the dynamics, but EQ will go into the empathy and effectiveness. When it comes to self-management, EQ focuses on goals, tasks, and cognitive abilities. But EQ focuses on managing emotion, resilience, and self-reflection. And these are the driving force of greatness. Now, when it comes to stress and well-being, IQ will focus on problems-focused solving, while EQ will tell you how to recognize your stress and do well. Then conflict resolution. EQ focuses on facts, logic, and reasoning. People normally say that in marriage, logic may take you there, but it is emotion that will keep you there. So, but EQ will look at managing emotions, ensuring harmony, and making sure you understand the different perspectives of people. Now, a research was done some years ago in which they looked at importance of professional success and stage of growth. If you look at it, you find out that the IQ is just there. It doesn't do well as the EQ. Then they have what they call the organizational quotient, who combines both IQ and EQ way up. So when it comes to professional or leadership success, EQ is so important. Now, the term emotional intelligence, I would, at any time, Oji wants us to have a break because we are coming to deeper waters, which will be, if he wants us to have a break at any time, we'll carry on with the slides. So let me know when we'll have a break. Is Professor Oji hearing me?
I'm hearing you very well, sir.
Yeah, so wait, yeah, thank you very much.
Yes, sir. So maybe after some time, we can just open up the floor. And
yeah, so if you want
people to ask or make comments, yes.
Yeah, can we just maybe have a break now so I can go on and talk about EQ more?
Okay.
All right, let's have a break.
On you, sir.
No, I'm very okay. I can see fire on, but I think that there are so many things. EQ will bring us a lot of many things. So let's just have a break now and then take questions on it.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. So the floor is open. Yes. The floor is open for questions or some comments, especially bringing it to our practical experiences. Is anyone ready to ask a question? Maybe I can open the floor then. Thank you very much, sir, Professor Rabo, for such an excellent talk. Okay, let me bring it home for those of us in medicine, because I know this forum, there are people from different disciplines. But those of us in medicine, as consultants, working in training institutions, we supervise Part 2 dissertations. Now, can you make it a bit practical? How can you supervise Part 2 dissertation and at the same time mentor? How can you really be a mentor? How can it be beyond just supervising that your candidate or that resident? So what will be the difference in a mentor and a supervisor taking the scenario of Part 2 dissertation?
Right. Although I know that the audience here goes beyond medicine, but Part 2
Yes, sir.
is what Part 2 dissertation is what medical doctors in the last lap of their specialist training. And during that training, they get involved, they do a dissertation or a thesis, and also they learn skills in their area of specialty. Now qualifies them after they've passed the exam to become consultant or specialist in their field. Now, many people and many physicians who supervise these candidates focus on the dissertation, on the thesis, and some may go further and then focus on their, their clinical skills. But that is not good mentoring, because good mentoring is not just taking you out of school. It is teaching you how to adapt to life. It is helping you pilot your life along the lines of your desire. Now, let me tell you this truth. Let me tell you this fact. Not many people, after they finish their Part 2 and become consultant, actually make a success of the medical profession. And even when they make a success of the medical profession, they don't make a success of life. And even when they are involved in the medical profession, they are not able, they have a low stress coping abilities. And so if at all they were successful in their medical profession, they were not successful in life. Then moreover, we are now seeing a situation in which many technical people, an engineer, a professor of medicine or senior lecturer in mathematics, they are now taking jobs that are of a political nature. Some of them are becoming managers. Some of them are becoming vice chancellors. Some of them are becoming CMDs. Some of them are becoming involved in many things that goes outside their core competence. Now, if you train somebody only on passing the exam, on having a good dissertation, he will not be able to excel. I mean, for example, I've taken many jobs, internationally, I didn't need my meds, and these are medical things. For me to be the program secretary of IETLD in the respiratory division, we revised a lot of papers for publication and also for the conference. We organized conferences. I've worked with the federal government in terms of the Merit Award Committee. I'm not going to talk to them about medicine. We are going to look at individual challenges of grading people at that point. I work as a chief examiner. I'm not going to look at how much did I pass my exams, but I'm going to see how I relate to people of diverse culture, of diverse temperament, to have an efficient and effective work. As an editor of a magazine, of the journal, it's not just about writing the editorial, but you are going to be you are going to generate money, you are going to look for money, you are going to steer up people to write in the journal, you are going to look for reviewers, and you are going to produce
speed work. So these are qualities that make you to succeed in real life. Then you're going to get married. If you have a difficult, challenging marriage, you can't be a good physician. You can't be a good doctor. You can't be a good manager. So a good mentoring program should not just look at the core technicalities of your work, but should aim at making you a complete man so that you can face life. I'm not saying that a mentor should be a father, at the same time be a priest, at the same time be a coach, but at least he should bring all these multifaceted arena of human endeavor and bring it to bear, even as he's mentoring the life of this candidate. Let me give you an example. I went into medical school at the age of 18 or 19. By the time you graduated from medical school, you were 24. You qualified at the age of about 30 to become a consultant, 30, 31. Now, the first part of your life has been spent in learning book, journal, book. But the later part of your life is really your life. And so if you are not fitted to learn life, you'll be somebody who is book smart, very book smart, but life dumb. You are successful in academia, but you are missed out on the race of life. Now, somebody will say, our mentors or our consultants or our supervisors, are they trained to be able to do that? Now, I'll answer that question as I look at emotional intelligence. The thinking now is, don't just focus on IQ. Don't just focus on the technicalities of what you are doing. Embrace emotional intelligence and see how you can train people in such a way that they can go through life and make a success, regardless of what happened to them while they were at school.
Yes. Thank you very much, sir. We have some hands up, so we get to do hands, but Dr. Etubi Ibrahim asked a question. He said, please, sir, are there frameworks for measuring the impact of mentorship?
Well, there are many models around the world, and it's across all professions, in which the mentorship program of every institution or every profession is assessed. And there's also what they call the 360 degrees assessment, in which when you are in a particular profession, everyone that you relate with will assess you. And then you have the time to meet with your mentor to look at all these varied comments of your success, of your assessment, and tell you the way forward. But I tell you, the biggest aspect of assessment is the feedback. Mentors should always be able to ask mentee, how am I doing in my mentorship work? And the mentees should be able to ask the mentor, how am I doing as a mentee? Now, let me tell you this. Yesterday, I had a meeting with one of our Part 2 candidates as we prepare for the exam. And he told me that you came to JOS to examine me while I was a medical student. And I was really curious. I didn't even know. And I wanted to ask him, what did I say to you? Some time ago, I was visiting Abuja, and I went to one of the churches there, virtually the biggest church in that city. And I met the wife of the pastor who said, you examined me in the medical school. I didn't know. Now, the question is, do we have feedbacks? Do we ask people how we are doing? You know, is it just a paternalistic affair, which you just say, follow me, follow me, follow me? So you find out that when many mentors retire at the age of 70 or thereabout, they virtually go into oblivion. Nobody wants to reach out to them. They don't reach out to others. They become like an abandoned property, an unused commodity, a car that can never be dealt with by the mechanic. So that is why the best assessment is feedback. And the feedback is not that you have passed your dissertation. The feedback is, have you succeeded in life? Now, in my own unit, when I was more active in supervising students, we used to have a Monday meeting, which we call Meet the Professor session. In that period, we discussed the soft skill that would merge with the hard skill in our training. So during that period, we don't talk about medicine, although we do some medical, we talk about some, we had a presentation, but then we now look at other soft skill, how you greet the patient, what I call ethic-based medicine, not just ethical-based medicine. You know, how do you relate to your patient in the world? How do you relate to your superiors? So if you have that system, and in those periods, I had the time to listen to my mentees. How am I doing? How can I do well? And they have the time to listen to me. How are they doing? If we do not allow this flow, this bi-directional flow, and that the mentor is just on top and the mentee is just down, there shall be no progress. It's just like the politicians who do everything that is wrong and get the paper to tell us that they are doing everything that is right. If only there's a feedback mechanism in everything that we do at all spectrum of life, that is the only time we can actually move forward.
Yes. Thank you very much, sir. There are so many questions on the chat, but we try to take as many as possible. I will ask, there's one question on the chat, and after that, I see some hands. I see Dr. Sudo there. That's one of the hands. And I saw Dr. Bande before, and a number of other persons hands up. I saw Dr. Judith Mwachuku also. But there's a question on the chat. How can you mentor a child who is a slow learner to help him improve?
Oh, a pseudo learner, slow learner. All right, I'll come back to emotional intelligence.
Okay,
but let me say this. One of the greatest lessons of any mentorship is that there are different strokes for different people. What you use for a child is not what you use for a big child. Then one of the greatest things you should never do, one of the most things you should never do, is to characterize a child and call him a slow learner, or you are not doing well. No, we shouldn't do that. The important thing is to understand your child and take time to study him and to try all kinds of creative means to get the best of him. Now, and also to be patient enough. You see, that's why the idea of where the husband is working, the wife is working, the father is working, the mother is working, is one of the things that have killed our society. No teacher can bring up your child. No grandfather can bring up your child. So you need to understand your child. You need to understand his motivations. And then forcing your children to do a particular cause because you consider them a noble cause is wrong. But I can tell you, regardless of how slow your child is, regardless of how many failures he has, never give up on him. The discovery of my lifetime is that every individual in this world at least have one talent, if developed, will make them excel.
Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Sudo, Professor Sudo.
Thank you very much, Prof, for this lecture. I'm really grateful.
Thank you.
Well, I can see that mentorship goes beyond impacting knowledge. It's like it also goes almost to the core of the individual, every aspect of the individual life. But I'm worried mentorship and menteeship between the male or the people of opposite sex. How safe is this?
Well, it's expected that if you are a mentor,
yes,
you should know the rules that govern relationship. Let me give you an example. I just finished a church service, and one of my members of our church, a pharmacist, married, I've known her for quite a long time. And then we were trying to go and look at something in the hospital. So the first thing I did was that, the person we are going to look at or examine the hospital is a female. And so we must get a female there. It's a rule. So if you are entering, if you have a female as your mentee, you must know when to put boundaries. When to put boundaries. When you don't put boundaries, you have a lot of problems. And mentorship is not that you are actually the only person that can reach out to someone. Sometimes you may need to do referral. You may refer somebody to someone else. Now, if somebody, a woman who is going through menopausal issues, I'm mentoring her, I don't know how to treat her. I'll go and look for somebody who has passed through it. I say, go and meet Mrs. That. So a mentor is not God to you. He's someone who is interested in your total life, who wants you to succeed, who also knows his own limitations, and is ready to seek help from others so as to get a balance. Let me give you an example. When I was doing my part 2 dissertation, exercising Jesus one, there were a lot of challenges because that was a field that I have not actually entered into. Now, my supervisor then had someone he also supervised long ago, but now is now in London, and he did a work on exercising induced asthma. And the man had to tell me, look, contact this person, get his book, which he presented for his, I don't know, I know it's MD or DD in the London. And when I got it, I learned a lot. You know, my mentor didn't have to start teaching me everything because that may not be his area. So a mentor actually has the ability to refer, and he must know the boundaries. It's like a woman who went to a clinic to say, doctor, I say complaints of headache. And the doctor said to the woman, I want to remove your skirt. The woman said, I said I have headache, and you are telling me to remove your skirt. So, I mean, that is the kind of thing. So you should know when to stop, and you should create boundaries.
Thank you very much, sir. I think that addresses Professor Olayinka Olasode's question. You know, so how do you cope with gender differences in mentor-mentee relationship? Then I have Joseph Obande asking this, say, thank you, sir, for this great talk. I will be grateful for the clarification on the following. How does one ask himself the question, what do I love doing most in life? When does one ask one that question? Now, number 2, what is the measure of success that we use in general vis-a-vis professional achievement, financial achievement, and independence? So 2 questions. When do you ask yourself, what time do you ask yourself what I love doing, and what is the measure of success?
Now, I think, thank you so much for that. In fact, I would rather advise questions. When do you stop asking yourself, what are the things you can do best? I believe right from the day you are conscious of the fact that you are living in a changing dynamics, that you're in a world that is evolving, and in fact, it's even involving revolution, you must keep asking yourself, what can I do best? What success, what is my best shot in this world? At this age, at this level of my education, I still keep asking myself, what can I do best? Now, some people ask me, how are you able to do all these things? I said, I have one rule. Do the only thing only you can do and delegate the rest. And that means I'll keep on asking myself that question, what can I do best? What can I be the best in? What can I do best? How can I do the best in? And there's something I saw here. And I call it, I'll read it to you, which I call desire. Somebody said in discovering what you can do best, D stands for what are you passionate about, which is your desire. E, what experiences in life have helped me to make what I am? That's your experience. S, has to do with your gifts and your potentials. Then I has to do with your individual style, that your personality, temperament. Then G has to do with your growth phase. And then N has to do with your natural ability. While I was still choosing my career, I used 4 things to determine whether I should study medicine or not. I said, 1, what is my potential? Then 2, what is my interest? Then 3, what are my opportunities? And 4, what do I perceive to be divine direction? The most important thing again is that you must also get feedbacks. I know sometimes feedbacks can be very, very difficult. People can tell you things that can discourage you. You must get feedback from people so that you know whether you are doing well or not. And this must be continuously all through your life. As a leader, you must get feedback. Somebody will say that the greatest skill required for a successful leader is a listening ear. And a picture says that God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, that we might listen twice as much as we speak. While another person quoted that it is harder to listen than to speak. Keep taking feedbacks. Keep asking people what I can do best. Keep asking yourself. Then one other thing we do, the modern world call it mindfulness, but I call it self-reflection. Every morning when I wake up, I do a lot of self-reflection. The first 1 hour or 2 when I wake up after my prayers is to ask myself fundamental questions. What are you good in? What can you do? What next can you abandon? I don't just want to live life like a treadmill. I want to stop and ask myself whether the exercise is beneficial to me. Then what is the second question? Now, the measure of success, well, there are external measures of success. For example, you can say you're economically buoyant in certain parts of the world if you have a house, if you have a car, if you have the things you need in life. Those are success indicators. But I think there's a research that people have done recently, and they say that after a particular amount of money, I can't remember the exact amount of money, any increase of your wages does not give you an increased happiness. Rather, it just gives you a burden of wealth. So you should also be going to determine where contentment comes and where you could stop and enjoy what you have rather than craving for more. Also, there's also the inner assessment, which is, how am I feeling? What's my total well-being? When I wake up, do I feel satisfied? That is an indicator only you can assess. And I can tell you, this goes beyond what you earn. It goes on your values, on your philosophy of life, and your driving purpose in life. I want to wake up in the morning having a sense of well-being. I want to wake up in the morning content at my life. I don't want to wake up in the morning and say, look, I wish I was someone else. I don't want at the age of 60 to be regretting what happened at the age of 20. And so at every point in time, you must pause the engine. At every point in time, you must have a halftime. At every point in time, you must slow down to ask yourself, this car, is it racing to my direction? Or is it racing for a wreckage?
Thank you very much, sir. Relatedly, Professor Kenny has a question on the chat. Can we measure the output or productivity of mentees in assessing mentors? And after that, we take the people that are raising up their hands. I see Professor Utili there, and I see one Dr. DRO08. So,
can I ask the question, repeat again?
Yes, sir. Can we measure the work output or productivity of mentees in assessing mentors?
Very important.
How productive? Thank you.
Yes, very important. You see, one thing I want to say that you must have, someone always said that people say that the greatest decision mentors and mentee will agree with is to agree on how do we assess each other. Ken Blanchard wrote a book the 1 minute manager. And he said that the most important thing of greatness is to define the benchmark. In fact, when Ken Blanchard was teaching in Princeton University, he always gives out the question to the students of the exams before they start the lecture, before they start their course. And the students were all succeeding, and the faculty and the university was querying him. He said, no, the fact that I'm giving them the question is to let them know the end point and to work towards the end point. Now, it may look rather funny. So if you have a mentee, two of you do not agree on what are the productive indices. How can we judge ourselves? That's why summative lessons training is not as good as formative training. From time to time, you will sit them and ask them, how are we doing? And I appointed you as my secretary. How are you doing? Are you able to write letters without my supervision? Are you able to take initiatives? Are you going from becoming dependent to becoming interdependent? So if you don't do that, you actually be paying people just for titles without necessarily assessing them how good they are. We don't wait for promotion exercise to exercise people. That can be very demoralizing. From time to time, we must assess them on the jobs we have given them and see whether they are performing, but also give them honest feedback. We should critique them, not necessarily criticize them, and allow them to move forward. So agree on what we feel it is. When we don't agree, when the mentor has a standard and the mentee doesn't know what that standard is, then there's crisis and there's disconsonance. So two of you must agree. What is success? What is expected of us? Then on that basis, we keep on assessing you until the summative time when we say you can now go on, you have arrived.
Thank you very much, sir. So Dr. Dari Ashabu, please can you unmute yourself and ask your question? And after that, Professor Augustino Jili, please, sir.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, sir. We can hear you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Prof, who I also call my father. It's a privilege to be in this meeting today. And I want to appreciate the organizers for organizing this meeting, which is life transforming. And there are lots of reflections for us to take home from this meeting. As it were, it appears Professor Okeli has asked the other side of the question I wanted to put forward to my teacher, who I've known for more than 20 years, which is about how a mentor assesses his effectiveness. The other aspect to that is on the part of the mentee, which is how can mentee pick the right mentors for them. And the reason why I asked this is this. I remember 2001 was my first encounter with Professor Rabo, who is also my teacher and my pastor. And I've been under his mentorship for more than 20 years. And my first encounter was with him when he was invited by, I think, the Students Fellowship Body, one of the largest student fellowship body at the Obafemi Awolowo University there. And he was asked to come and give a talk. And I went to that talk and I heard him speak. And almost immediately, I knew that at some point in time, I would need to come under his mentorship. The word mentor may not probably have occurred to me at the time because I was still relatively young. But over the years, I understood what that meant. For me, I could have said it was not rocket science and it was no brainer that I needed someone like him in my life. But there are a lot of young ones there, young consultants, trainees, residents who may also be on this platform. How do we go about, how can they go about picking or identifying, what are the things they should look out for in someone that can be a mentor to them in life? Thank you.
Well, I think that's a very, very difficult question. And to a large extent, I will need a lot of guidance. First of all, you need guidance from someone who may have mentored that person or somebody above you. If it's possible to have someone you can ask questions about. Then two, you also need to hear what people are saying about this person. So usually because specialty is so narrow, I would not have a choice to choose among many people. So you can actually not be able to do that. Then thirdly, you must look at your values and find out that, does this person actually share the same values with me? I used to say that life is determined by values, your values, your attitude, and your lifestyle. Then also, you can also look at yourself that, how does this person make me feel? Does my contact with this person, does it actually enhance my inner desire to succeed? Or it destroys the little candle that is burning in my heart? Then you ought to look at some form of emotional chemistry. Somehow you notice that there are certain people who you just flow with. Now, I can talk about you are a surgeon in the UK, but knowing you is somebody I flow with. If I'm with you, I'm not saying that you're my junior colleague, because I flow with you, there's some chemistry. But when you go and stay with certain people and you find out that the chemistry does not flow. Now, if it's the only person in your department, then learn as much as you can learn, get your degree, and then look for other mentors in other aspects of life who can bridge in the gap. Now, if a female wants to meet a man as his mentor who is used to, who is used to having a relationship with many females, he's on a risk. His risk quotient has to be very high or low, I don't know. So all these are questions you must ask yourself from time to time. Does this person model the values I have? Does this person maintain the same attitudes I have? But if you don't have that kind of a person, I tell you that you can also learn from mistakes. You can also learn from failures. You can also learn from setback. And I tell people that crisis is a learning curve. I tell people that storms come to people's life not only to destroy them, but to clear the way for greatness. So don't show despair if your mentor, because he's the only person in your field, is there. Bear with him, learn how to deal with difficult people, learn how to deal with people on the rough edge of life, and then you are going to meet many such people in life, and that will help you to be matured.
Thank you very much, sir. Before Professor Dili comes up, it addresses the question of Dr. Lateju. And they said, what are the selection criteria for a mentor-mentee pair? I think you have addressed that question. There are some other questions on the chat that we take before we give you the floor again to speak. But then we have Professor Agostino Dili, Professor of Medicine and Cardiology. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Professor G, for organizing this meeting, and welcome to our university, Professor Irabo, whom I wouldn't say I have listened to him before, but I'm quite excited listening to the discussion, and thank you for making our time to come to us. I have a comment and then a question. The comment is to thank you very sincerely on the work you have done in West African Journal of Medicine. And for us, I know that right now I'm battling to see how much we can rejig our own journal. And I've always used the reviver in West African Journal of Medicine as a yardstick to talk about what is happening in our own journal. So we may have to consult you privately on that. And please do not turn us back when we do so. Then number two is about emotional intelligence. Yes, there is actually a lot of talk about emotional intelligence, and I discovered that sometimes people hide under emotional intelligence to lie and do all manner of things. They say, oh, emotional intelligence, even if I will lie to get what I want, that's all emotional intelligence. And I find it a bit disturbing. I will give an example. A few years back, there was an election, in medical school, and somebody was trying to push me to vote a particular candidate. We are all different as individuals. I said, look, I don't want to vote that candidate because of this, that. And then the person said, try to bring emotional intelligence that maybe because of this, I should vote the candidate so that I will appear good before a group of people. To me, that was very irritating. I know we are all different as individuals. Some of us have independent minds. And, you look at something, you say, it's even better for me that I remain the way I am than doing some people will do it. They call it emotional intelligence. They don't feel bad. In fact, I remember what I told the person. I said, look, if I do this voting, you will be happy. The person voted will be happy, but I won't be happy. I will go home feeling very sad because I feel I have gone against, proper judgment, both human and God. But some other person may look at it and say, oh, emotional intelligence, just do whatever, provided, you get what you want, that is just being emotional. So my question is, how do we really tease out lies and insincerity from emotional intelligence? Some people may do one lie, to them is nothing. They feel good about it. They call it emotional intelligence. But someone else may feel so terrible, that, and then the person will rather move in a particular direction, despite the fact that maybe people around may say he's not emotionally intelligent enough to be able to work in a team or with his boss. Thank you very much. And once again, thank you for coming to our college.
Thank you very much for the commendation. I'm grateful. Vote someone in whom you are not convinced about. But in not voting in, emotional intelligence will tell you that that should not destroy your relational skills in relating to that person. So if you have emotional intelligence, you can
Recording
actually...
stopped.
In having emotional
progress.
In having emotional intelligence, you could actually face the brutal fact that this is wrong. This is not right. That's what emotional intelligence will let you know, because you have studied yourself, you studied others. But however, the fact that I disagree with you doesn't necessarily mean I cannot relate with you. So emotional intelligence puts you in such a position to be candid, to be truthful, and also tactical. So anybody who goes about and saying emotional intelligence, that's not emotional intelligence. That is wire intelligence. And I don't think it's necessary, because emotional intelligence is truth. It's not a lie. And you see when I talk about emotional intelligence. But if you are if I look at it on the other side, if you are in a group, if you are in a faculty, and you have a man of your own mind, it should be very consistent, not only in voting, but in other aspects of life. But then don't allow your differences become so pronounced that you cannot make relationship with someone. There could be a period when there's some degree of silence, because when people get bruised, they need time to heal. Oh, I expected you to vote for me, and this man did not vote for me. Well, sometimes he not talk to you, sometimes he shout and so on. Doesn't matter. But when he recovers, he can now come to respect you, that you are a man of your own conviction.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. That is great. Thank you for addressing that beautifully. I see one iPhone. Your hand is up, iPhone, but we don't have your name there.
Yes,
Please,
Professor
can you just
that's me.
introduce us?
My name is
Who is that?
Professor Ibekwe.
Oh. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Professor Ibekwe, please.
Sorry that I didn't know the name was not written. Once again,
No
thank you
problem.
so much, sir. You have efficiently delivered as expected. I had glued from the beginning up to this moment, and I'm sure that I'll be here till you are done with the lectures. But I just want to bring something that is not usually commonly captured, even in the best of mentorship books. Sir, the issue of multi-mentorship. How is it handled? Or does it not exist that one can have more than one mentor at the same time? And you see, sometimes if it is closely related areas, it may be people whose relationships are not all that cordial. You see yourself caught in between. Let me leave it here. I'm sure that you understand what I mean, why you embellish and address the point. I think it will help a lot of us. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, can I just understand you? Are you saying that if, for example, a mentee has two different mentors and two of them are not agreeing, or a mentee having many mentors?
Yes, the former. You have two mentors, but they are not agreeing. And
Yes,
you
you
find
see,
yourself caught in between. How do you navigate around
yes,
it?
yes. Let me say this very clearly. Emotional intelligence should teach you how to deal with different people. And I want to say this, that if, for example, maybe two people are in your department and they are supervising your work and the two of them are always fighting each other, if they are fighting each other to the core, that somebody says, if you want to examine somebody, you should use a hammer. Or now, say if you want to examine the person, you should use, what do you call it? You should use butterfly or something like that. Now, that tells a lot about your innate wisdom. And that should always help us when we navigate through life. To know when to speak and when not to speak. I would say, first of all, be known, let the two mentors know that you are a person of truth. That you are not just trying to, be a double-faced person. Double-faced people get shot at by both sides. So for me, it may not be absolute. I want them to know that I'm a man of truth. But the second thing I want them also to know that I'm also tactical. For example, if I come to one of the mentor and he's saying a lot of things about the other mentee, or the other mentor, I would not like to comment. I used to have a mentee, which was a brilliant person, and anytime I talked to him, I said, oh, look at this person who is senior to me is doing this. The man will not speak. He will not comment. If I say, oh, look at that person, he won't comment. Until one day I had to call him, why are you not commenting? He says, sir, it will be actually wrong for me, a junior person, to begin to comment on my superior in the presence of my superior. So you must be very tactful. If because you want the favor of both of them, you begin to traffic in gossip and rearrange things so that you can please each other. One day they will catch you and will shoot you on both sides. Let them know you are candid. There was an interview that was being conducted in a teaching hospital, and those who were in that hospital told me about it. And the CMD of that hospital was trying to employ a surgeon. This boy had done so brilliantly. In fact, was a very brilliant person. And then the CMD now asked the question about one of that surgeons. Where is that surgeon? He said that surgeon is very good, very nice man. Then he asked again about another surgeon. What he said about? He said that one, oh, he's such rough. His surgeon is not one. He said a lot of bad things about his surgeon. At the end of the day, the CMD said he will not take that guy. He said any junior colleague who will spoil the name of his senior colleague would also spoil the name of the CMD or anybody behind him. So I'm trying to say that in being candid, you must be tactful. Know that whatsoever you say will actually be reframed by others. And make sure you don't fall a victim of that. If there's anything I've learned in this life, whosoever is before me whether it's my wife, whether it's my most intimate friend, I want to follow the ethics of good communication. I don't want to say that somebody is related to me, I will gossip and slander. Because things, truth, lie, may have a long journey to go, but one day it will meet its nemesis. So it's sad that you be very truthful. If he asks you, how is this your mentee and your mentor? He's always coming late. Keep quiet. If he asks you, don't you think this man is always coming late? If you can't say anything positive about somebody in his back, then don't say it. There's a great CEO who has a plaque on his table. He said, in this office, everybody is safe, whether they are here with me or they are not with me. By saying that everybody is safe, he literally said that if you are in this office, be sure you will not hear me say anything behind someone that is evil.
Thank you very, very much, sir. Please, I want Judith Mwachuku to speak. I apologize. Her hand was up before. After a time, I was not seeing it. In fact, she raised her hand up. The first person raised her hand up. So please, over to you.
Thank you so much. My name is Judith Ojiri Mwachuku. I'm a daughter to Professor. And Prof, I want to thank you very much for the training you gave to me that is speaking in my life this time. I happen to be chairing the Nigeria Association of Small, Medium Scale Businesses in Delta State. And that puts me in a position where I need to mentor different levels of people. And at times it can really, really get frustrating because, my membership now is almost hitting 1,000. And from all across the 25 local governments, I have to be dealing with the government people, dealing with people that are, in terms of education, they are very low. I don't know if you understand me. I have to be dealing with all kinds of people. So mentoring them, my question now is that at times I get frustrated trying to pass a point to them. They will keep asking the same question you just shared with them. And how do I manage it? From listening to you today, I began to see some points that I need to work on. I began to see I need to get feedback from the people I'm leading so far. I have 25 coordinators all across the local government that report to me. And really and truly, at times I just want to say, I don't want to work with some of them again. So how do I manage such as a leader? I have people older than me, very, very older than me, but the way they will act at times, you will wonder that they're not just exposed. So my question is that how, as a leader, am I able to mentor these different levels of people and still be a good leader? Thank you, sir. Thank you, Prof.
Yeah. So some years ago, one head of department called me, in fact, and told me, can you give me the best advice as I commence my job as head of department? And I told him that, look, the best advice I will give you, that the greatest meeting is the meeting before the meeting. That if you are going to call a departmental meeting, look for the stakeholders in that meeting, and especially the vocal and intelligent people in that, the much more, visible and top people in that meeting. Try to discuss your points with them. Try to understand what they think about that meeting before you ever come to that meeting at all. That is the first law of great meeting. Now, the second one is this. When I was a chief examiner, I was actually in the middle point.
Recording stopped.
I was actually in the middle point.
Recording in progress.
I have people who were my boss severally. Then I have people who were junior to me, so I was in the middle point. In that examining body, there were professors who taught me in the medical school, who later became vice chancellor. They were geniuses. So what I did was that when I come to that meeting, I know it's a privilege for me to be a chief examiner among these great people. I first of all acknowledge all of them. In the morning meeting, I say, want to thank Professor this, want to thank Professor this, who has taught us all the while. And I defer to them. I don't speak in I know it all terms. I try to ask them questions. And most of them, I go to them privately to consult on thorny issues. And quite a lot of them are my friends till today. Now, when you are put as a junior person addressing people as senior to you, and you begin to use very, very uncivilized language, you begin to speak hard on them, you begin to talk them down, that shows you have some issues. Then thirdly, talk less about yourself. If you are going to lead people, people don't want to know who you are. They want to know how much you care. Don't talk about yourself. Ask them about themselves. Let them tell you about themselves. Let them tell you about their concern. Seek their advice. You see, by the time you tell them what to be done, you tell them how international, like yourself, I know you are very international, you have gone to many places, you are very, very versatile. By the time you're not telling them who you are and what you have done, virtually you now create a superior-inferior complex in them, and they won't say anything. And the only way out is to begin to disagree with you. So just tell them, look, you are one of them. Some of you are older than me. Some of you have been in this terrain more than myself. Some of you have businesses that I've never gone into. I need your advice. I need your counsel. You see, there's a research that was done on leadership. And this was also done by Jim Collins. He found out that the great companies, not just the good companies, the head of those great companies were humble people. In that book, in fact, I listened to Jim Collins live in Philadelphia, in Chicago several years ago. And those are people, when you invite them to speak, you pay them at least $15,000 per talk, $10,000 per talk. So you can see what it takes for you to listen to such people. And the man in that his book said that the great CEO, if he fails, he looks at the mirror and he blames himself. If he's succeeding, he opens the window and look at the cars and see that the people that make me succeed. So you must also make them know that they have some degree of intelligence and that you need their support. You need to hear them. Be the last to speak. And that's what Nelson Mandela told us. He said the chief is always the last to speak. Don't be the first to speak. Don't share innovative ideas or creative ideas or new ideas. Let people give the ideas. Then tell them what you need to do. After you have given them the right to speak, and then they have earned from you the right to hear, then you can now speak to them. Then the other thing I want to say that in leading this set of people, you must never use drastic steps. Now, James Clear wrote a book on atomic habits. Now, the central theme in that book, Atomic Habits, is that habits that will stick comes in small increments. That is, for example, if you want to walk 1 hour every day, you don't start by walking 1 hour every day. You start by making 10 minutes. Then another one 15 minutes, another one 30 minutes, and so on until you come to a point of stability. So what am I trying to illustrate? Don't bring all your plans at once. Don't drive them all at once. Let them take baby steps and give them the opportunity to fail and learn from their failure. Then encourage their soul.
Recording stopped.
Ken Blanchard wrote a book on 1 minute.
Recording in progress.
And he says that encouragement should sandwich to criticism. That is, preface everything you say with encouragement and close everything you say with encouragement. Start thanking them for having the time to come for your meeting. Then when you encourage them and praise them, They say encouragement is the oxygen of the soul. Then you can now go on and critique them. And after the end of the day, you encourage them and thank them. Somebody said a great leader, first of all, defines the context. And then after all, he says thank you. So when you have finished everything, say thank you. Then share with them the largesse. You may not be able to give them money. Maybe you should have some minerals. Maybe you should have a drink. Maybe you should ask for a head talk, free head talk from them. Maybe you should get some physicians to do blood pressure on them. Maybe you should get somebody to teach them on some little skills. Somebody told me one time of General Babangida, I'm not sure if it is true, it was a scholar that told me. He said that when General Babangida was head of state, he was actually he knew most of his people personally. You could just call somebody out and say, how's your wife doing? I had your wife put to bath. Man, how is that course you are doing? So he had a great likability index. Why not ask them how their child is doing? Ask them how their business is doing. Walk around them and shake their hands. You know, the business of the meeting is the business of my life. Nobody would like to come to a meeting where you only deal on the core issues of that meeting without dealing on the core issues of my life. And as a total too, you must also try to take care of some spiritual nuances. And that cannot talk because this is a secular meeting. And that you should be able to do that because sometimes there could be atmospheric cacophony, which has to be dealt with another realm.
Okay. No, thank you very much, sir. Now, we have the privilege of having the executive director now, or the chief executive officer of Nigerian Medical and Dental Council. But before I give her the floor to say a few words, she sent few sentences on the chat before. We have a question here around the use of ITP by Dr. Rifkatu Reng. He said, can we then use ITP for assessment of the mentee's effectiveness? That is individual development plan. Can we use that for assessment of mentee's effectiveness? Then after that, Professor Chiari, please.
Yes, that is good. But as I told you before, the mentee assessment varies from place to place and also from profession to profession. When you look at, for example, I remember that, Professor Oji, you had an assessment from your own case, which to what you want to get at. And make sure that in choosing any form of assessment thing, it has also been tested, and piloted. And make sure also too that it is also relevant in the cultural context. Okay. There are certain forms or certain assessment that actually is not relevant because they are not within the context of the environment or the culture to which you are situated.
Contextual. Okay, sir. So Fatima Chiari, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon,
Good afternoon, Professor Rabo. Thank you so much for that brilliant discussion. There were two things everything was quite important, but there were 2 or 3 things that I picked up. And I just wanted to tell you that it's very much in line with some of our thoughts. One of them is the fact that we need feedback for our trainers or, seniors. And I think we are going to run with it as part of our expansion program for medical schools. We would like to receive feedback from medical students at least three phases of their studies. First, after the first professional exams, and then second, after the third professional exams, and then the final. But we are going to start with the 2, the first exams and then the final exams. So I think feedback is very important, and we're going to try and ingrain it into, we're ingraining into the expansion program. It's already in the TOR, Then I also wanted to reiterate the fact that mentorship is a two-way thing. One has to, both parties have to agree to start the mentorship, to continue, and also to sustain, and when to end. You know, it's a two-way thing. There was something very key you also mentioned about people in academic leadership positions like deans and provosts. And exactly what you mentioned, in my 1 year as the registrar of MDCN, I have seen that gap. Some just get on without really knowing what the functions of a provost are or the dean. And I think it's very relevant. So we have also set up I don't know what to say, a program to train, you know, people in academic positions, mostly for our selfish interest as MDCN, but I think it will generally be, you know, useful and helpful in the school-wide approach. So we are collaborating with the University of Abuja, the Institute of Advanced Medical Research and Training. We have already put in a proposal for that certification, you know, about regulation and medical education in terms of things like accreditation, care of the students, provostship, and examinations and assessments. So I think that will also be something that we would like to take forth, and I'm happy that it resonates with you know, you as part of our key stakeholders. So once again, thank you very much, and I see there's a very good participation in this program. And I'm happy to say that IAMRAT is taking the lead on this. And thank you also, Faculty of Clinical Sciences, Professor Chinda and Professor Oji. And of course, our provost as well, Professor Titus Ibekwe. Thank you so much for putting this together. It's a very pleasing one. And thank you, sir, for honoring this invitation. I think it is very insightful and useful to all of us. Thanks again.
Thank you, Ma, for the great work you are doing. I've heard a lot about the things you are doing, and so we are happy that you find time to be in this meeting. And Professor Oji talks to me a lot about your great achievements. And recently, not too long, I was invited by the registrar of the National Postgraduate Medical Council, physicians in Lagos, Professor Arogodade, who is now been appointed Vice Chancellor of a medical school, to speak on leadership. Then I was outside the country, and he told me to speak online. And then I was happy with that invitation because one missing gap, especially in medical training, either physicians, students, lecturers, is the absence of leadership training. People are not trained. I gave an example to them. I said, look, when, for example, you become a CMD of a university, of an hospital, you now have a constituency that goes beyond your medicine. You have nurses, you have medical lab scientists, you have, all kinds of, you have cleaners. And so you cannot actually afford to be parochial. You must have the mentality to reach out to this various strata of people. And I make them known to them that the fact that you have distinctions in the medical school does not mean you understand human relations. You know, the fact that you are a very brilliant person doesn't make you have a good human relationship. And these are things we need to train people on. And we need to do it right as part of the curriculum of almost every profession in the world. Now, we always blame that there are no leaders because they are not trained. People just go to one leadership school. In fact, when they go abroad for leadership school, they spend most of their time shopping and come to collect the certificate. You know, so it's something we must put in. Then the other thing I want to talk about was that when I was giving that talk in National College, I said, for every position that I've taken, I have always had an exit strategy. So right from day one, if I take the job, I start planning my exit strategy, have my goals, have my purpose, have what I want to achieve. I've been the editor now of the journal for going to about 8 years. I don't know, something like that. And which is a user. I finished with the physicians, the surgeons I should carry on. But I've started planning my exit strategy. So great leadership is also planning your exit strategy. When you know that you have got the loudest ovation and it's now time to exit. Exiting from your present position is not necessarily a redundant thing. You exit to go higher. You exit to use your skill for greater endeavor. You exist to have a bigger platform of what do you call it, of play. So whenever a person is leading, you keep on asking himself, how do I exit? And if I leave this one, how do I prepare for the next assignment? As I tell people that today's assignment is preparing you for the next responsibility.
Mhm. Thank you very much, sir. I think it's very relevant, leadership, and it's one of the things that we the proposal I told you about, the certification courses. So it might be postgraduate at this point, but this is what we plan to do, especially in academic leadership, which they can also expand, you know, in life in general. So there's that thing in the pipeline as well. Talking about leadership and what you put as exit strategy, for me personally, the first thing I think about is not just the exit strategy, is the legacy project. What do I leave behind is what I think about first. And then my exit strategy is always to ensure that if today I leave the spot, someone else will occupy it comfortably and well. And I think Professor Oji is here to testify to that, because when we started the IAMRAT in Abuja University, you know, so the rest is history, because I had to leave abruptly and there was no vacuum after I left, you know. So that is a thing I do. I carry people along and I ensure that there's people aspire to be wherever they need to be, you know. But I think for me, is my most important plan is the legacy project. What do I leave behind? So the certification course with, I hope IAMRAT will continue to pursue and bring it to fruition at the University of Abuja, which can also earn a master's degree if there's a dissertation attached to it. And that includes a suite of modules, one of which is leadership and ethical leadership in our institutions and our profession. Yeah, so again, we align in that aspect as well.
Thank you very much.
Professor Rabo will be one of the faculty for the leadership training.
Yes, I agree with you. Pen that down, please.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Professor G, I don't know if we can have about 5 minutes. Can we have a 5 minutes break?
Yeah.
So that I can mentor my blender.
Oh, yes, I understand. In fact, we are going to.
No, it's called comfort break, sir. Comfort
the time
break.
is already about 12:30, so we are going to maybe just split. Yeah, like you said, 5 minutes break, and then we give you the room to just round off maybe another 10 minutes or so that we don't take too much of people's time. Because, like we said, this is one in a series. This is actually what we planned. It should be interactive. We want it to be quite interactive, you know, as much as possible. Someone put a question there as you go to that the presentation is heavy on values and life principles requiring a national audience. It is needed So we just have some few minutes. When Professor Rabo comes back, we will just round off this session. Okay, so there is okay. So there are one or two things on the chat also that we would like him to address when he comes back. And for me, one of the things I would like him to address would be in view of the shortage of manpower. How do we, in this part of the world, how do we cope? What are some of the contextual strategies we should use? Because you have very good intention, you have residents. I mean, some of us have 5, 6 people you are supervising their dissertation. You want to carry on mentorship as much as possible, but sometimes you struggle with time for research, time for your family, time for some other things, time to teach the medical student their lectures, all over. Administrative work is there. So how do we balance things out? I think that's one of the topics we'll be looking into in the future as we continue in this series, but maybe it can just throw more light when it comes back. So thanks again for participating and for your patience. We'll be rounding off in the next 10 to 15 minutes. And tutoring, it will also be nice when Professor Rabo comes back for you to expatiate on your comment on power and positionality. You commended him for addressing that, but maybe for the benefit of the general audience, it might be nice for you to expatiate on that when the Professor Rabo comes back. Well,
Recording stopped.
I'm back.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much, sir. So, well, people have been commenting on the usefulness of this, and one person talked about, I wish they knew this earlier, you know, or she knew this herself. Well, it's not too late to start. But there was this issue about balancing power and positionality, which was raised. You made a comment about that. Maybe in the next 1-2 minutes, can you expatiate on that in relationship with mentorship? Because sometimes the accusation of mentees, you know, when they accuse mentors, they feel that sometimes you use your undue power, you know.
Recording in progress.
And
Yeah,
it's as
I think
if
so.
you force them. Yeah. All right. Go ahead, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody once said that those who hurt others are those who hurt him. A badly trained mentor will pass out the virus to his mentee. So, because the culture is changing, because the paradigm is changing, and because we are now seeing the fact that you are a mentor does not mean that you should be overbearing on your mentee. The last generation of people, I remember in those days that when the consultant is coming to the world, everybody is just freeze. But now we now know that that is not the best way to learn. So during this transitional phase, we are going to have that problem. But those of us who are now learning that in fact the best way for living is to build relationship, not necessarily to exercise authority. Authority is not bearing down on people. Authority is actually creating an avenue to make people better. So those of us who are learning this may now have to carry it along as to others. As you say, good mentoring means mentoring others, but we still have to go through them. I want to tell you this. I know that there are certain people today who are chief executives. When they appear on the scene, everybody begins to hide. But there are certain people too, when they appear on the scene, the workers are happy. Because not that the person is not strict. He's strict, but at the same time he's sweet. He's tough, at the same time he's tender. He's thorough, at the same time he's compassionate. He follows principles, at the same time he allows people to have the opportunity to grow out of their failures. And that is the important thing about leadership. People think that leadership is a position, not knowing that leadership is influence. Because you mirror whom you lead, or who leads you. So the leader is there for the people. You are not coming, the leader is not there for himself. The leader is on a contract. And that contract is to harness all resources available to make those he's leading achieve their desired goal. It is not, they are not there for the leader. They are not there just to make the leader great. The leader is there to make them great. But it will take a lot of transition, a lot of paradigm shift, a lot of change in mentality, which we hope one day it will come.
Thank you very much, sir. Please, there's a chart there by the Chief Executive Officer of Medical and Dental Council. They are compiling a directory of qualified professionals interested in serving and resource persons for various engagement. You see our passion about leadership, training, building capacity. That's the best way to go. And I'm sure a number of us will be interested. There's a link there. Please take your time and fill that link. You can copy it, paste it somewhere in your system so that you can complete it, and send back. Thank you very much that you do that. We're going to round off now, sir. We're going to round off because people have stayed. This is Saturday, and I'm sure people might have one or two other things. But before we give you like 5-10 minutes, sir, to round off, there is the issue about timing. I know that's what we'll be talking about in subsequent meetings. But the one issue in our environment is shortage of manpower. You can see that you have an average faculty involved in a lot of things, in teaching medical students, in training residents, in running the clinics, in running procedures, in doing administrative work, in trying to catch up with research, in trying to catch up with meetings. The meetings are so many now, both online and in person. So how can you balance this when it comes to mentorship? How will you be able to create enough time, for your mentees in view of a lot of competing interests? Your family is also there, because if your family suffers, of course, every other thing suffers. So please, can you just speak a bit to this then as you round up, except there are other questions or comments people want to
Yes,
ask.
I think I will say a little bit on it, but you know that the whole package of time management is very big. I have that on it. So we'll not it will, but let me say this very clearly. When priorities is so important. So Pareto was talking about the 70-30 rule, or some they call it 20-80 rule. And Charles Schwab, said something about, when they were talking about management, he said, look, if you want to decide on what to do, I think the same thing Mary Kay also said. He said that write all the things you want to do for a particular situation. Then prioritize it, A, B, C, D, or 1, 2, 3, 4. Then start with number 1 until wherever you stop, it will show that you are 80% effective over time. What I would like to say is this. If you are short of faculty, if things are so done, everything is short, the first thing I would do is what will I chalk out? Some years ago, I was called as a resource person in Tromsø. And Tromsø is, what country is that now? Norway. And we were discussing telemedicine. And we were talking about how it is possible to start prescribing to our patients without getting them to the hospital. And then giving them management plans and when they ought to come to the hospital. And that was the COVID. And later COVID caught up with us. So what we need is that we need a paradigm shift. We need to think outside the box. Are there meetings that will not hold, that we need to cut? Then secondly, we need to train people to do certain job, give them the skill, even if they don't have the technical competence at a higher level. For example, in my field, I can train technicians to handle lung function. I can train them to take some history notes for some patient, not necessarily with a structured form. I can train the screening of patients that come to see the doctor. I can lengthen the visitation time. The time you come into the clinic. So we must learn to think well. Then our meetings. I can tell you, sincerely speaking, our meetings are actually too long and then too many. You see, I want to say this, or Professor Falashe, we were all in a particular board, which I would like to mention. Professor Falashe was the head of that board. There were about 6 of us, or 6 or 7. Now, other people in their various divisions of the board, but when Professor Falashe comes in for our own board meeting, about 6 or 7, within 1 hour he has finished. In fact, one time I was forced to say, sir, you have clinical precision. What people do is that they make a decision at initio how long the meeting will last. Let's start 5 o'clock, we will finish at 6. And according to Parkinson's law, is it Parkinson's law, yes? He says a time work expands to the time allocated to him. Friends, we are not going to have entertainment, we are not going to have tea. Tea after the meeting or tea before the meeting. What are the essential things? What do we delegate? Now, sometimes you may need to give assignments to people to think about and come back with solutions before the physical meetings. Then you can do online meetings. Sometimes people may meet together for hours trying to discuss whether they should be putting butter in bread or they should put bread in tea to soak it. And you wonder, why do you have to spend hours on that kind of a meeting? If the meeting is not necessary, and to know again that your meeting is not necessary, when people come late, or people sleep, or people know that even if you come 2 hours, the man will still be there. Don't make your meeting boring. Make it simple and straight. And then if you have technical people to do certain things, give them the technical thing. And you as the CEO work at the highest level and delegate everything that you can delegate. So there must be a shift. There must be a restructuring. There must be a rethinking. You must give up power if you are going to see yourself healthy. Then don't compromise your, what I call your high priority areas. Don't compromise your health. Because if you are priority capacities, you won't do well. Don't compromise your family. Because if your family is not there, you are gone. Don't compromise your me time. Which is the time for you to think. Let me give you an example. When I was very actively involved in clinical work, because now we're almost at the tail of our version, I stopped doing ward round, moving from patient to patient. Because why do I have to move from patient to patient? What I do is that I'll gather all my lecturers, my doctors, and sometimes the nurses, who will sit down to discuss all the patients, one after the other, discuss them, one after the other. When we finish, the time we spend on each patient is limited. Patient A, we saw that these are I'm not telling makers to present your case. No, if I want to teach them, I teach them outside the patient, only to make the demonstrate science. So we come to patient A, 3 minutes, we have made decision. We examine and we move. So at that end, a ward round that we will spend 5 hours. We spend only about less than 1.5 hours. Because the patient has been well discussed, decisions have made, and so we just go to the patient to find out what they found. Discuss all the results before we get to the patient's side. And then we must teach people how to talk briefly. They say, blessed are those who speak short, for they shall be invited again. If you notice that somebody is always talking too much in your group, try and give him allocated time. Mr. Mustafa, 2 minutes. Haruna, 1 minute. You know that he cannot keep that 1 minute. But by saying 1 minute, it's gone. So these are the kind of things that we'll do. And then when the person spares 1 minute, clap for him.
Thank you very, very much, sir. Thank you, sir. Professor Chiari, some people are saying that the link is appearing invalid. So please look into that, man. Thank you. So, Professor Arabo, I think you have some 5 minutes or thereabouts so that we start rounding off before I hand over to the dean to make some final remarks. Yes.
Well,
this will continue.
Okay, all right.
Yes,
all right. If we have 5 minutes, we can't even cover emotional intelligence. Let me try my best to do a little bit of this emotional intelligence, just a little bit, and see within 10 minutes if I can get it there. So we can't do leadership, we can't do time management. But let me just do this emotional intelligence because of the question that was asked. And I will just try and skip some things so that people can just have an idea of what emotional intelligence is. All right. All right. Let me just move on. All right. Now, this slide shows the first person who talked about emotional intelligence, which I won't go into details. Next, I will present. This is another person who introduced emotional intelligence. This is the real father of emotional intelligence, who's from his book, Emotional Intelligence. That was Daniel Goleman. Now, let me just say this, that research have found out that the average person has 400 emotional experiences every day. And research has also found that emotional intelligence is relevant for at least 58% of all types of jobs. And 90% of top performers have high IQ. Now, it is the single highest predictor and the strongest driver for leadership and professional training, and also for earnings. I will not go into details about that. Now, it reduces stress, success, and so on. But I want to really come to core. Now, this is something I want to mention. This diagram is very important. Now, and the antecedent to this diagram, I won't take it because of time. I'm not a neurologist, but this is what is happening. Now, every sensory things you receive, whether your eye, your touch, and things like that, all enters through the brainstem. I don't know if we can have a pointer. Is pointer? All right. All right. All right, you can see the brainstem. Enters through the brainstem. But before it can get to the cerebral cortex or the prefrontal cortex, it has to go through the limbic system, which includes things like the hypothalamus and the thalamus and so on. And that limbic system is described as the emotional brain. Now, when it now comes to the cortex, is defined, that cortex is what? The rational brain. So, the traffic between the limbic system and the rational brain is that the rational brain modulates what happens in the limbic system, our emotions. But actually, our emotions, they predate or they precede our rational brain. And that is why we feel first before we think. You know, we act first before we reflect. You know, we shout first before we begin to caution ourselves. Why are we shouting? And so by and large, a man is an emotional brain. Now, the traffic between the limbic system and the cortex, that traffic and the two of them together is where the emotional intelligence is. Those who have emotional intelligence, there's a balance between their rational brain and their emotional, what I call emotional brain, the limbic system. Now, let me explain more as we go further. So, when we say emotional intelligence, there are two basic things about emotional intelligence. The central theme of emotional intelligence is to know yourself, then manage yourself. So, you want to know the emotions that you want to know your emotions and know how to manage your emotions. Then the second thing is to know other people, see how their emotions interplay in different scenarios, and then manage relationship. That allows for productivity and effect. A man who has emotional intelligence knows himself. He knows the things that makes me angry. He knows the trigger factors in my life. And then there's a good connection between his cortex and his limbic system. And so he knows how to manage himself, to keep himself cool, calm, collected, and not to allow his triggers take him off. Then he also knows other people's emotions. So he can easily empathize with people and thereby manage relationship. Again, emotional intelligence has to do with what Socrates says. Know thyself is the beginning of wisdom. Sometimes every behavior we do, we blame it on people, not knowing that actually we are transferring our feelings to other people because we don't know ourselves. So what do we find? Emotions, thoughts, and behavior. And so a person who is emotionally intelligent has a synergy between his emotions and his thoughts, and that governs his behavior. Majority of a person who is not emotionally intelligent just allow his emotions to go haywire. He's the head of a department, he shouts at anybody. He's annoyed. He throws tantrum. He's the father of a home, he throws tantrum. He doesn't manage his emotions. His thoughts does not modulate his emotions. And so his behavior is erratic. Now, there are at least 5 domains of emotional intelligence by Goldman. But the central thing is know yourself, manage yourself. Know people understand their behaviors, and manage it. The 5 are self-awareness, empathy, social skills, self-regulation, and motivation. So, but the most important one is social awareness, self-awareness, self-regulation, then social skills, which now determine the outcome of your behavior. So let me look at this. So what emotional intelligence looks like? You have a personal competence. You are calm, you are collected, you are cool, your emotions do not go roller skater, the limbic system does not rule you, but your limbic system and your prefrontal cortex are working in synergy. You know, you listen, you reflect, you pause, you do mindfulness. Then so you have a self-awareness, and so you can manage yourself. It's just like remove the dust from your own eye before you can look at your own face. Then you have social competence. Is that you're able to become aware of other people, aware of their feelings. You study them from afar, you study them from near. I mean, I know now there are some team with me working. I know they are hungry. And during break, I had to ask people to go and buy drinks for them. You know? And many of them are just waiting for this lecture to end. Now, if you don't have that social awareness, and you see people very angry, you begin to say, look, they are not serious, not knowing that their problem is hunger. So, when you are a mentor, you must have awareness. You must be sensitive to the other person, and that will determine your relational management. Now, if you look at, time will not allow me to go into details, but let me say something about self-awareness and self-regulation. I will stop and look at other things and then round up. Self-awareness is the ability to recognize and understand your moods, your emotions, and your drivers, your triggers, as they affect on others. So that will create self-confidence, realistic self-assessment, and self-depreciation. Then, or self-appreciation. Then self-regulation, the ability to control and redirect disruptive impulses, anger management, the propensity to suspend judgment, to think through before acting. And so you become trustworthy, you become calm, you become comfortable. You don't get angry easily. Then motivation, a passion to work for reasons that go beyond money. And then you look at empathy and social skill. So if a person has good emotional intelligence, he understands his emotion, he understands the emotion of others, and then he gets competence to manage them both. You understand the emotions of your boss. You know how he thinks. You don't blame your boss for what he is. You learn to adapt to what he is, and then you synergize with him. Now, if you come and look at self-awareness, now it influences us. Let me say something about IQ. IQ is already fixed at the age of 15 to the age 50. It's almost like that. It only grows. But emotional intelligence, you can build it over time, you know, and like neuroplasticity, you can build it over time. You can actually build your emotional intelligence with time. You know, you can find how you are good in things, what you enjoy. You can actually build up your emotional intelligence. So IQ appears fixed, you know, but EQ can actually develop. And so it means making a SWOT analysis of yourself. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your threats? Why are you always angry? You know, you wouldn't blame your father that your father was always angry. Yes, it could be, but you have the ability to modulate that emotion by your thoughts. You have the ability to keep yourself calm. Now, it takes a lot of training. It takes a lot of feedbacks from people. It takes a lot of looking at the ending point of your life. So you want to be controlled by it. Now, I will say something before I conclude on this part and then we'll close. The thing is that when you do not have emotional intelligence, that is, you don't understand your emotion, you cannot be effective to understand other people's emotion, and so you cannot be productive. And over time, you spend time on yourself. And as I wrote here, I wrote this morning when I was coming up, I said, a person with good emotional intelligence is calm, is composed, he has good coping tendency, he embraces change, he reads himself and no one to act, he doesn't have an unfiltered reaction. But a person with low EQ gets stressed so easily, he's angry, he's anxious, he's depressed, he has suicidal tendencies, he is always angry, he always misunderstands other people, and he goes into what they call assumption imbalance. Anything he sees, he makes assumption, which is not right. So time will not allow us to talk. There's an emotional appraisal test to talk about that. Now, I want to conclude with these few things. At the end of the day, in mentorship as in leadership, you want to be a clockmaker, not a time teller. And I can explain to you what was a clockmaker. A clockmaker is a person who is institutional builder. Just like Oji is today, he is the director of the Advanced Medical Research and Training. He wants to build this institution that will leave a legacy outside him. If he wants to be a time teller, he will not be dealing with the individual researches around the country or globally. So companies that have clockmakers, they are those who build companies, build organizations, and prepare them far beyond the tenure of a single leader and through multiple product of life cycles. So visionary companies, organizations tend to be clockmakers. At the end of the day, ask yourself, is a leader a clockmaker or a time teller? Their primary accomplishment is not the implementation of a great idea, not the expression of a charismatic personality, or the accumulation of wealth. It is the organization itself and what it stands for. Now, what I wrote here is order your world. That is your personal emotions. Optimize yourself. That is, you know your abilities, you know your talents. Then organize yourself. And now we would have talked about time management. Then own yourself. First of all, own yourself, organize yourself, optimize yourself, then order your world. Then you can now move on from individual success to institutional success. From institutional success, you move to significance, because some successes are good, but they are not significant. Then later you now move on to a legacy that you can easily transmit to others. It is not just about professional or personal success. It's about being significant. That is, whatsoever your success is actually significant. So look at this. I call this, what are your plans for a productive year? Between 20 and I begin to tell people that as time goes on in life, we begin to see our lives. Now, it is very ironical if you see a man of 65 behaving as a child of 20, or you see a man of 40 behaving as a child of 25. So when you see this curve, you ask yourself, what do I do at this productive time in my life? You know, I was saying something some time ago, and I said, when a child is born, he goes into a period of restriction. The parents restrict him. And they tell you, don't do this, you don't do this, you don't do that, you don't do that. As the child grows up, he now becomes a bit free. And now he goes into the period of what? Restraint. You cannot more restrict him, you want to restrain a bit. But later it now comes to the point of release. If you have a teenage, an adult, young adult, you now know when to release them. Then from the position of release, they go to the period of responsibility. When you expect your child or your mentee to be responsible, then finally you now come to the stage of what they call it, when the returns. When that person now begins to bring returns, a son begins to take care of his father. A mentor also begins to take care of his mentee. Now, so you don't just become parasitic. So if you look at this graph, every time I look at this graph and I look at my age, I ask myself, what should I be doing now? I exercise every day. But the kind of exercise I do will not be the exercise I do when I'm 20 years old. You know, I cannot go and begin to eat all kinds of pounded yam and all kinds of things at the age of 65. You can't do that. You are changed. So you must know how you plan your life to a more productive life. As the wise Solomon told us, we teach us to number our days that we may apply ourselves to wisdom. So think holistically. That's all I've been talking today. Whether you're emotional intelligence, whether it's mentorship, always think holistically. At a particular age, you know anything can happen. Emergencies can happen. But if you don't think holistically, you miss out. And that is the circle of life, which I've mentioned. This circle should always be before your eyes, in which you grade yourself, your family on a scale of 0 to 10. Am I 10 or 2? Community, relational, physical, social, spiritual. That's the complete man. Don't just keep on going through life, bulldozing yourself through life, attending courses, doing ward rounds, attending meetings. No. Just sit down every day to look at this circle of life. And when you see a part is not being addressed, address it. Because the part you are not addressing, you will come back to you one day. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you very much, sir. We cannot thank you enough. I mean, this is inspiring. It's like you should continue. But we are mindful of the time, or we advertise till around 12:30. So I want to appreciate you so very much. So I want to hand over to Professor John Chinda, that is the Dean, Faculty of Clinical Science, to say a few words of appreciation and then finally close the meeting for us. Professor Chinda, are you still on the call?
Yeah, thank you, Professor Oji. I think we have to sincerely thank our resource, Professor Gregory Ibo, I think, for that very, 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 very brilliant discourse. And it was very, very active, very, very impactful. I think touch on every aspect of our lives. And I know it will go a long way in our mentorship life. So, and I know since this is one in a series, I think this lecture itself has advertised the subsequent series. The attendance has been very, very impressive. And I want to thank all the participants for finding time to attend this program. I think you have made us happy by your attendance. So, and I know that this program is going to impact on all of our lives. So, Professor Irabo, I don't know if you are to speak on respiratory medicine, I wonder how this will have gone to. I was wondering whether you're a professor of respiratory medicine or professor of mentorship. So I think it's quite very. You have made our day. I think we are happy, and we pray that God will bless you in return. Thank you very much, sir.
Amen. Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for coming. That some people have requested for the recordings. I'm sure Professor Rabo wouldn't mind that we share the recordings of the meeting.
Professor, can I just make a conclusion there? I want to thank also. Yes, I want to thank Professor G and the Dean and also the Provost for making this appointment for this program. I also want to thank my wife who is with us online, and all the team that have worked there. We have a series of technical team here who have been working day and night to make this happen. Now, I have written books on mentorship and leadership. You can always contact Professor Oji or you can, if you look at these, I'll try and screen these slides, and then we can now share it. And then when you see it, you see the various informations together. So thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to serve. We look forward to a greater one. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And we can share the recording. Your permission?
You can, but I'll just say we should just
Link.
screen it a bit.
Okay. All right. No problem. We do that. And so please, you can leave your email addresses if you want the recording.
Yes. Yes.
Please, I can share with you. So thanks everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Please we are looking forward to another session like this. We keep us posted on that. The due day, as we work with Professor Rabo to choose another time, to continue this series. We are looking forward to another 2 series on mentorship before we take some other subjects. So thank you, the dean, and also the provost is still around, and my faculty members like Professor Lee that was there, the executive director or chief executive officer, actually, of Medical and Dental Council, and to everyone that has joined. Thank you, and thank you very much. God bless you.
Recording stopped.
Take note of